Hey all, Nicholas DeMario of SterlingKisses.com here, and today I have a new toy to show off. This is an ultrasonic cutter produced by a company called Jakemy. Ultrasonic cutters have been around for some time, but only recently have appeared more broadly and affordably to hobbyist consumers. I came across this particular model on Kickstarter. It came packaged with cut-resistant gloves, extra blades, some abrasive sanding sticks, which is what really sold me on this model because I've never seen that on an ultrasonic tool like this before, and of course the cutter itself. It feels solid, having a metal body and a good weight to it. The cap has a slide lock and twists free to reveal the blade. There's also a little compartment that holds an Allen key for changing the blades. There's no battery and only works when plugged into an outlet. It has 3 settings and a display screen to show you what mode you're in. It will also display a temperature gauge while being used, which I'll get into later. Before starting, I tried on these cut-resistant gloves that were included. They fit very well and were nice and slim, but I have more control over the piece I'm holding without the gloves on. I haven't cut myself yet, but I'll let you know in a future video how bad it hurts when I do. This actually brings me to my first complaint about the cutter. It's not terribly ergonomic, and what's worse is that there's no grip to it. Even without gloves, there were a few times in my testing where I almost dropped it. Some kind of rubber pad or even some simple etching for the metal case would have helped. Here's an assortment of pieces that were printed in various castable resins. They can be very brittle, and removing supports is always a delicate process. This piece in particular was always a challenge to cut the supports away without breaking the posts. The ultrasonic cutter made short work of them. It took a little getting used to just how much pressure to apply, but when you hit that sweet spot, the blade just glides right through. I was expecting it to make some kind of annoying buzzing noise like an ultrasonic cleaner, but it's completely silent. When the button is pressed or it's in automatic mode, the lights at the front of the cutter turn on, letting you know the blade is active. Every once in a while there'll be a somehow satisfying squeak from the blade as you cut, but that's it. The blade does get hot, but I haven't noticed it damaging these wax-like resins. You will want to let it cool though before swapping out the blade. The cutter came with a variety of blades, but when I first tried to swap them out, I almost stripped the screw head, and that was using the Allen key that's stored in the blade cover. It was a bit too small. I tried this other hex bit that was included, and it was the proper fit. Once you do get the blade removed, you'll see that it fits into a little holder that's removable as well. The locking screw doesn't need to be removed all the way every time you want to swap a blade, just loosened. One feature that stood out to me from all the other ultrasonic cutters out there were the polishing sticks. My set included a set of 600 and 800 grit sticks. They use a different holder that has a wider gap than the cutting blades. As with the blades, it took a little getting used to. I found they worked best using the edge of the sticks and keeping the tool moving. I was pretty impressed with how it handled the underside of this ring. The little support nubs were ground down to nothing pretty quickly, and I was really pleased with how it smoothed out this large flat area. Here's a little comparison of the cutting tool in action versus the polishing stick. By the way, there is zero sound from this thing while it's grinding away. So far I've just been using the high mode and the automatic modes. In automatic mode, you don't have to press the button to activate the blade, it's just always on. Automatic mode seems to be just as powerful as high mode, and I really haven't found much use for low mode yet. While cutting, the display shows you how hot the tool is getting. Once the bar is full, it turns itself off. I've only had this happen once while in automatic mode after about 8 minutes. You can see the temperature bar here is full, and the activation button starts flashing. My last nitpick would have to be that the switch doesn't lock into a setting position very well. It's too easy to slide it past the setting that you want. Let's try some typical use case scenarios. The following miniatures were printed in a standard ABS-like resin. It works great on individual supports, but I find it starts to struggle with heavier cuts. For example, trying to slice through this row of connected supports. I think what's happening is that the more material you try to cut through, the more it tends to bind the blade or restricts the ultrasonic action. The narrow blades and chisel blades work really well, and the best cutting action is at the point instead of the edge. It might be a bit slower than using clippers, but I find myself using the ultrasonic cutter for about 80% of the support removal job. It may ultimately be saving me time because I don't have to do as much detailed cleanup after the initial support removal. Not to mention there's less risk of breaking something or leaving the classic support divot. Where the tool really shines is when cutting delicate pieces. You don't have to apply much any pressure. The blade does all the work. Of course, how can I review a tool like this and not mention model kits? It works great for getting a clean cut on these Gundam parts. Here's a little test of cutting through the thick part of the plastic runner. Like I've mentioned, the blade does get hot, so there was a bit of stringing. But it's amazing what it can do compared to the standard hobby knife. Warhammer fans could also find an ultrasonic cutter handy in their arsenal. For anyone working with castable or otherwise delicate 3D prints, an ultrasonic cutter like this is a must-have. It literally takes the stress out of support removal, and I'm sure to find even more uses for it in the future. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Nicholas DeMario of SterlingKisses.com. Thanks for watching.